my mom's favorite dishes, seafood lasagna.
So I've got a container of ricotta cheese here, full fat. I'm gonna add some thawed spinach that I have kind of wrung out, took all the juice out. Got some artichoke hearts. And you can find this in like a jar in your vegetable aisle. I'm gonna add some mozzarella cheese, a little salt, and some breadcrumbs. Growing up, my mom would always make lasagna. That is one of her favorite things to make. And one day, she decided to get real fancy and change up the lasagna. And she made a seafood lasagna with Alfredo sauce. And I have been craving that lasagna for a long time now. All right, so I'm mixing my ricotta with my mozzarella cheese. Now I'm gonna add 1 egg. And now I'm going to zest this lemon. So I'm just combining all of my ingredients. Got the ricotta, artichoke hearts, a little mozzarella, an egg, Italian breadcrumbs, and lemon zest. Now I'm gonna cook the seafood for my seafood lasagna. I'm gonna melt a few tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna add 2 pounds of Charleston shrimp, some garlic that I've minced, and a little seafood seasoning. All right, so I'm just gonna cook my shrimp until it turns opaque. It doesn't take shrimp to cook long at all. Woo-hoo! My mom is gonna smell this as soon as she hits that porch. All right, so my shrimp is cooked. I can just eat this bowl of shrimp. So now I have some white wine here. I'm just gonna deglaze my pan. You see all that good seasoning and stuck on garlic that's at the bottom? That's gonna create a really nice essence to the seafood. A little lemon juice. I'm gonna cook this down just a little bit, reduce it by half, and then add in my crab meat. Ooh, that smells great. But you know what else smells good? The shrimp. And grab one. Quality control. This is how I feel about it. I'm gonna add my lump crab meat. Now I'm gonna add my shrimp back into my pan here. Look at that. So I'm gonna turn this off. And now I'm gonna make my bechamel. I'm gonna take unsalted butter, about a half a stick. I'm gonna melt this down and then add in flour. That's gonna help get this sauce nice and thick. So that looks great. Now I'm going to add 3 cups of whole milk. And I'm adding freshly grated nutmeg. Now, this is something that my mom never did. And I found throughout the years that freshly grated nutmeg just warms up the bechamel, and it gives this a little slightly like aromatic flavor. A little goes a long way with freshly grated nutmeg. 1.5 cups of Romano cheese. Romano has that kind of like that nuttiness and saltiness that you get in Parmesan cheese, just a little bit more. And this bechamel is just one of the twists on my mom's seafood lasagna. All right, so my bechamel has thickened. All right, Mom, I'm gonna add a little bit of my bechamel sauce into that ricotta. Did I do that right?
I didn't used to do it that way, but...
I just put a little bit of the bechamel in there because it's gonna help loosen up the ricotta and make it a little bit more spreadable. That's it.
Okay, I can agree with that.
The next thing I remember is you put a little sauce down at the bottom.
Always, and so it won't stick.
So a little bit down at the bottom. They have a new thing, Mom.
What is the new thing, Kardea?
It's ready to bake. You don't have to boil it. So these pasta sheets get nice and soft, like as if you would boil it, just in the oven with heat.
You know what? Even in the stores today, I still go for the ball.
Can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Roof, I guess so.
Put sauce down, spread it all over the noodles. Let's put the ricotta down next.
Looks good so far.
Can you do the honors by adding the seafood mixture?
Sure I can. Don't look over me like your grandma do. You know, that makes you nervous, you know, when we're in the kitchen and you know when your grandma does that.
Oh my gosh,
you can't stand that.
That's not what I do. Well, now I'm gonna get in here like grandma and help you out because
see?
You're not spreading enough for me.
Isn't that something? You're
You
telling
gotta
me
have
my
equal-
recipe. Isn't that
You
something?
gotta have equal distribution. Mom. I didn't know how you did. I just know it tasted good. Break it in half. Sauce, the ricotta and spinach and artichoke mixture. I'm repeating those same layers now. All right, Mom, I'm gonna top it off with the last bit of sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Can you top it off with the rest of the mozzarella cheese?
Okay.
Nice and even.
Are you telling me? Okay. Isn't that something?
I'm gonna cover my lasagna and bake it at 350 for about 30 minutes, and then bake it uncovered for an additional 15 minutes, and that's gonna get it nice and browned, and you're gonna see all those bubbles on the corners.
Oh, I can't wait to see how this comes out. Hopefully it'll come out like it's supposed to.
Or better.
Really? Ooh, that looks good.
All right, it's getting there. We need some bubble and some brown. That's why you gotta take the top off. All right, Ma, you wanna see?
Yes,
You wanna
let's
see?
Let's see what it
Let's
looks like.
see if it looks like yours. We gotta wait to see if it tastes like yours, though.
Okay.
Ooh, look.
Oh, now it's bubbling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at this, cousins.
Oh, that's pretty.
Look at that. Okay, Ma, now I have to top it off with some more parsley. A little color, a little herbiness.
Ooh.
All right, Ma, let's dig in.
Ooh, yes. Oh, that looks so good,
It's
Kardea.
cheesy.
There it is, there it is. Ooh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if this stands up to your recipe.
I'll see. Oh, that's good.
My dad and Aunt Lucy are visiting the farm, so I thought I would make them a special treat, my version of my Grandma Mary's Tepong pork, which they rave about from their childhood. It's tender and juicy, and it's braised with cloves and star anise to give it a dark sweetness that's intensely good. To start, I'm seasoning a pork shoulder on all sides. It's really big. And I'll get a layer of oil heating up in my Dutch oven. And I want to sear the pork shoulder first, which will help it get that crust and lock in the juices. It's really important for the flavor. I'm putting the fat side down first so that I can sear it when the pan is the hottest, and all that pork fat will help flavor the rest of the pork. All right, I'm gonna quarter up some onions as this sears. These will add a subtle sweetness. I've got 4 cloves of garlic, and I'll give them a little smash, help them incorporate. And then I'm gonna peel a knob of ginger just by using the edge of a spoon to scrape off the skin. Ginger will add a nice zinginess. This is ready to flip. I'll let it sear on the other side while I grab my spices. I've got star anise and cloves. Star anise adds a little licorice flavor, and cloves are so dark and warm. These are gonna add amazing depth of flavor to the Tepong. Okay, speaking of which, I'm gonna get the pork out of the pan. It's sounding good. I'll let this set aside while I cook up my onions and other veggies. I'll also throw in my garlic cloves, and then I'll use a fine zester to grate in my fresh ginger. Next, I'll add my cloves and star anise. I'm gonna be careful not to eat these at the end, but they have such amazing flavor in their full form. I'm gonna add a little handful of each. These will get strained out at the end. Next, I'll add 3 tablespoons of dark brown sugar for some sweetness. This is what I particularly like about this recipe, is how sweet and savory it is at the same time. I'll stir these around and let the sugar melt. It's smelling so good in here already. I'm gonna add a cup of soy sauce, which will add great saltiness and flavor. And I'm using dark soy sauce. I'll also add a cup of sherry vinegar, which will add that vinegary acidity. It also adds some great caramel flavor. Now I'll add the pork back in. I want it to be fat side up this time because when it braises, the fat will kind of fall down into the meat and make it extra juicy. Now I'll cover it with water and let it come to a simmer. I'm smelling those dark spices. It looks beautiful. I'm gonna let this braise at 325 for 3.5 to 4 hours until it's tender. So my dad is making little slits all over the hard-boiled eggs so that the juices can get all up
Into the yolk.
into the yolk. All right, let me put this back on the stove. We're gonna let the juices reduce just for about 5 minutes, and then it'll make a sauce and help the eggs get tasty. I'm slicing this against the grain into big, thick slices. How are the eggs doing?
They're doing great.
Do you wanna spoon them on next to the pork?
Yes. These are really good looking louis.
My mother's marinara sauce. So 2 yellow onions, and just get them cooking in that olive oil. Now this is where we need the pure horsepower of garlic. So 10 cloves. So I just slice them into rounds and drop it in there. I like a little heat from 2 teaspoons of chili flakes. Does the same thing as pepper, and then I put 2 teaspoons of sugar. And for a little bit of nature's sweetener, I'm gonna add some fresh carrot. Now I'm really ready to add my tomatoes and turn this into a tomato sauce. So just pour 2 cans of whole peeled tomatoes into here. We'll just let this tomato sauce continue to simmer on the stove over like a medium heat. Up next, I'm gonna drop these perfectly browned meatballs into my marinara sauce. Now for the taste. Wow.
This is inspired by my mom, coffee cake recipe. So you're gonna do the topping. That's
Okay.
crushed walnuts, chopped, some sugar and cinnamon. Done.
Easy.
And then we have a stick of butter, which is 1/4 pound, right?
Yes.
And then we're gonna cream the sugar and butter, the oldest method in the book.
I don't know, GZ. Did Mama have a stand mixer? Shouldn't you just be
She
hitting
did
that
this,
with
you know
like?
that thing?
Yeah.
Oh, the
yeah.
hand mixer.
Yeah,
Okay,
hand mixer.
all right, all right.
My
Was
mom-
it? Did she do it like this, or was
No,
it
no,
electric?
it's electric.
Okay,
My
I don't know
mom-
how old you are,
mistake.
GZ. I'm just checking.
I think coffee cake screams holidays too.
Oh.
Yeah.
You have one of these and your family's visiting.
Best.
It's the morning, you're sitting around having a little coffee, a little talk, and some coffee cake.
Coffee cake.
It also makes a great gift.
Yes.
We're gonna, a couple of eggs go in.
But I've made it as a gift and then just eaten it.
That happens. Have you ever had coffee cake with coffee flavor?
No.
No.
Once I had coffee cake that had like a like espresso kind of crumble on top, and I've been chasing it ever since.
Well, you gotta
Okay,
make
so
it.
Yeah.
we cream the butter and sugar, added 2 eggs, so easy. Vanilla, and then we're gonna just slow this down, slow the roll, and add sour cream.
Oh, I love sour cream in a coffee cake. It makes
Hey, you know, since you're doing an old recipe, quick question. Have you guys heard the fact that, you know, back then the fat content and things like sour cream was different than the sour cream that we buy now?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Was
mean-
it? Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, this baby's done. That's mixed. We're just gonna sift flour. And you can get a sifter. You just have these sifters that you
Oh,
go
yeah,
Yes.
with a hand.
Still
I
have
got one of
one.
them.
Yeah.
Salt,
Oh, I love it.
baking powder, baking soda. Baking powder, baking soda. One is single acting, one is twice acting. And then we're just gonna.
We never washed that flour thing either. It just went right
No,
back
never.
in
You
the
would
cabinet.
never wash that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my mom's turned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one that
Right?
turns and there
It
was
has
one
like
that
a-
had the grip, you
Yeah.
know?
So very low with this because I don't want to get anything on your lovely red blouse. And I'm just gonna
It's really all about you not getting anything on your lovely navy blazer.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
I can see a blush through that tan.
How's that possible?
GZ, I just think it's really awesome, all of you, right? When you share a family heirloom recipe, it's more than special, you know? So thanks for sharing this with us, GZ.
My pleasure, and I know
I've never had one of your mom's baked recipes like
you're
this.
gonna have it today. Okay, so don't overwhip it because you don't want to do any development of gluten or anything like
The
that.
gloosh.
The gloosh. These are the greatest things ever. Springform pans.
Come on.
Butter it a lot, just really butter it, and it's thick.
It's gonna be nice, heavy.
It's really good to see
dense.
and know when a batter
cake.
feels thick and you just think, did I do it wrong? And the answer is no.
No,
Oh.
you didn't.
That's perfect.
Okay, Katie's gonna come along and sprinkle that love on top.
I sometimes like my
I'm gonna
waffle batter.
have a
that
little
way.
bit more love here.
Here, go right in there. Thank you. This goes on top. 350, about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Just a little cake tester in, comes out clean. You're done. Let it sit. Should be served room temperature. Now, I wouldn't serve this warm.
No.
I mean, I'd love to just kind of agree with you, but when something like this comes out of the oven,
How do you say no?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. At least pick a little bit of the crumble off the top.
I don't
Look
care.
at this.
Let's see if
Oh!
That's a coffee cake.
Mom, if it's not good, it's okay.
Oh, I'm sure it's gonna be great.
Oh, man.
Look at that beautiful crust around the
I want
edges.
to take a piece
You're going
out
to
of
make this, next thing you know, your doorbell will ring. Unexpected company.
That reminds me of Sebastian
Yeah,
Maniscalco. Did you see that bit he
Yentamins,
did?
the coffee cake.
Is
And I
perfect.
serve this with a little sour cream on the
Yes,
Oh.
cheesy.
side. Powdered sugar.
Do.
Wow.
Okay.
Do.
Sonny?
I don't mind if I do. Let me get a whole fresh new fork.
Does this remind you a little of the coffee cake that comes in the rectangular box?
No, this is much better.
No, it is, but it's got that
Much more
same
beautiful.
Americana vibe.
You know, I love, Jeezy, you always balance things out. The sour cream is smart. You know what I'm saying? To just go with the sweetness of everything.
And I think this needs a cup of black coffee.
Yes.
Fancy
coffee.
cappuccino.
Oh.
Needs black coffee.
What, you're not having an espresso
No, not with
standing at your
this.
counter with
No.
your perfectly
This
groomed
is a pot
poodle?
of coffee she made
It's a
on the
Mississippi.
stove, percolated. You know the percolators, the old ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would boil over all the time.
You know, the perfect thing about this coffee cake is not just obvious the flavor. It's moist. It's not too dense. The crumble on top is perfectly crunchy and sweet and salty.
Fried chicken. I am going to get my buttermilk marinade going. I go about 2 cups of buttermilk, couple shakes of your favorite hot sauce, garlic powder, onion powder, and just the smallest amount of celery seed, and a couple big pinches of salt. All right, so we're gonna take our chicken. We're going to put it in a resealable bag, and then we're gonna take our buttermilk and pour it over top. And this is gonna marinate for anywhere from minimally 3 hours up to about 8.
So this is very, very simple. It's just a cup of cornstarch and flour, 1 cup. This is just all-purpose flour. So this is some paprika.
Could you do like a smoked paprika in here?
For sure. About a teaspoon of cayenne,
You could really make them how you
good
want.
pinch of salt, and some good amount of cracked pepper.
You
Get out
go.
of my jar rub. All right.
So we have peanut oil in here to start, but I also have some pork lard back here, and I am gonna add some lard to my peanut oil. So fried okra.
Fried okra. Okay.
I cut these in about 1/3 of an inch thickness. So this is just the first part of our dredge. So about a 1/4 cup of flour, good pinch of salt, a little bit of paprika and cayenne.
Sort
and
of
then
the same
that's it.
spices we used in the chicken. So I have 1 egg. Just gonna give that a little whisk to start it. And then we're gonna put in about a 1/2 cup of soda water, which is going to, when it's fried, give it a really nice crispy texture. Okay, and you see that gives a nice, look at it foam.
So we just go first in the flour, a nice even coating, and then in the pocket with the eggs. So then you're just gonna coat these evenly, and I am just gonna start dropping some of these in the fryer. And remember, whenever you're putting things away, don't drop from high, get a little bit closer, always kind of push it away from you. So once
of
these go
your hands.
in, you kind of just give them a swirl. And now we're just looking for them to get a nice golden brown. You could see it has that nice texture on it, some of the green popping through. These ones that are golden, I am just gonna pull out. And as soon as these go down on the paper towels, Liz is gonna hit them with a little pinch of salt. It's star show time, I feel, fried chicken. So
Yes.
we marinated it in the buttermilk, and then I'm gonna start dredging the chicken into the flour.
I like this. This is your take on Shirla's fried chicken.
My take on
because
Shirla's chicken. So we have all the chicken breaded. We should be at about 360 degrees. So our oil is at the right heat. I'm gonna start placing these in the fat, See that nice pop there? And because we're doing this in a cast iron, after about 3 or 4 minutes, I will move these around and flip them. So everything's kind of getting nice and crisp and cooking evenly. And we should be done in about 10 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes with our fried chicken. Remember, temp the meats to see what temps they're at so everything is cooked through. All right, it took about
really perfect.
12 minutes. We're gonna garnish this with some crunchy flat leaf parsley. So as that is happening, we're gonna take our beautiful fried chicken.
That is so perfect.
So hot. Spread the okra around.
Now, this is something Shirley never did.
I'm gonna put some lemons and limes on here. And that is it. That is our ode to Shirley fried chicken okra.
How about satisfying your sweet tooth with my grandma's famous red velvet cake? I am getting this half-sheet tray ready for the red velvet cake batter. On the bottom, I buttered it, then I put on a piece of parchment paper, and then right over the top, buttering that as well. Now, I've got 2 sticks of butter in my stand mixer here with a 1.5 cups of sugar. I'm just gonna cream them and get them ready for the batter. All right, while that's creaming, I'm gonna start building up the color of this red velvet cake, and that's by way of 2 ounces of red food coloring. There is no red velvet cake in our family without some cocoa powder in it. That's what makes it a red velvet cake for us. 3 tablespoons of this cocoa powder. That thing is creaming for its life over there. Wait, hold on, let me turn it down a little bit. All right, relax a little bit. All right, 1 tablespoon in, 2 more to go. So we've got 3 tablespoons of cocoa in there and just a pinch of salt. What we want to do is kind of build a little bit of a slurry before we add it to the creamed butter and sugar. This is just one of these things that I love from my childhood, and now you can have. All right, so we got the slurry started right there. What I want to do is build up the rest of the wet ingredients. First things first, a cup of buttermilk are going to go in here. And this is the key to some moist red velvet cake, a cup of buttermilk. Now to that, I'm going to add 2 eggs. So a teaspoon of both vanilla extract and our white vinegar go right in here. I'm going to whisk that together. And that is going to be our wet ingredients to build up our red velvet cake. All right, by now, this is good to go, nice and creamy. You're gonna totally notice that the color of your butter and your sugar have kind of melted together and become a really pretty fluffy white color. Get this over here, I'm gonna start working in some of our wet ingredients. First things first is the red food coloring along with the cocoa powder. Like I said, no red velvet cake without some cocoa powder, so just get that right in. And I wanted my red velvet cake for graduating from high school, and she hooked me up. Thanks, Grandma. All right, so this is all incorporated into our creamed butter and sugar. Next, we want to add the buttermilk for moisture, the egg, the vanilla, all of that right in there, and don't forget the vinegar. And that's going to get mixed in as well. All right, so there we go. We've got all the wet ingredients mixed in. Now to that, I want to add 2.5 cups of flour. Get that in there. We'll level off. Also, the joys of making red velvet cake, red fingers. All right, that's gonna be 1 in, poof, poof, 2, and then where is my half? Gonna get that in right now, and then just lightly combine. You don't wanna over-mix this. We're not making bread, we're making cake. All right, and then the baking soda, we're gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of that. We're steps away from making Grandma proud. Feeling good. All right, so I'm just gonna incorporate this all together. All right, so this is coming together. What I'm gonna do is bring it right over here. Remember, I buttered the bottom, put some parchment, buttered the top. I'm gonna spread all of this red velvet cake batter right out onto it, and this is what we're gonna make our layers out of. Yeah, just 1 sheet pan. We're gonna start on my grandma's frosting for red velvet cake. Now this is a frosting in a way I have never seen made before. I am so used to creaming it up in a kitchen mixer right there. But this is on the stovetop. And a lot of people say this is the more classic way to make a frosting for red velvet cake. So we've got 2 sticks of butter right in there. I'm gonna bring up some flour and some sugar, and we're gonna add in 5 tablespoons of flour to our butter. I just wanna get in a cup of sugar. Yeah. Now to that, I just wanna add a couple of drops here
of vanilla extract. And that's it. Can you believe it? This, all I'm gonna do is work it out. You know what, get a whisk. That's gonna really help you incorporate everything together. And this is gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes. It's gonna thicken up, and this is going to turn into our frosting. Now, to that, we're gonna add a cup of milk. That's gonna make it nice and creamy. Unbelievable, frosting on the stovetop. Never heard of it in my life, but let me tell you, like I said, first time I made this recipe took me right back to Grandma's kitchen. All right, so we're gonna whisk this together, get it nice and thick. It's gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes. Now remember, my grandma's frosting for her red velvet cake, let it cool after it starts to thicken, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's perfect for frosting. Look at our cake. It's moist too, it's nice and cool. We put it in the sheet tray. First layer butter, parchment, then butter again, then batter, and that's gonna help it come out of this without a hitch. Peel back the parchment very gently to reveal the moistest red velvet cake you will ever eat in your life. Thanks, Grandma, for the recipe. All right, so now we're gonna cut this into 4 even strips. This is a great presentation when you bring it in, so just judge the middle, go right down, the middle again, right down, and the middle right here, so we'll have 4 layers of red velvet cake. You tell me, if you bring this to a party, if people don't stand up and cheer, I don't know what kind of friends you got. I can't help you out. I don't know what to do. All right, so first things first, I'm gonna drop some frosting down on our first layer of the cake and then sprinkle over some chopped pecans. Just get a little bit on. And now this is gonna thicken slightly as it sits, which it should. Let it sit for just a little bit. And this is gonna be so good. Remember, I told you I've never made frosting like this before in my life, and if you haven't, gotta give this a try. Still a little bit warm, so it's nice and pliable. Sprinkle over some chopped pecans, not walnuts. Yeah, this is my grandma's recipe. And then that's layer number 1. What I wanna do now, get on layer number 2. Very easy to do. 1 and then 2. Look at that. Let's go into the red velvet cake. Look at this, how beautiful it is. Remember, with the 2 ounces of our red food coloring, the cocoa powder to make it the true grandma's red velvet cake, and we've layered it up with love. Look at how beautiful that slice is.
Now I want to get started on Grandma's mac and cheese. This is an old school Southern way of making macaroni and cheese. There's no fuss. It is fail-proof, and I have to make it for Grandma this Thanksgiving. I have cooked 1 pound of elbow macaroni till it's al dente. That means it still has a little bite to it. You don't want to overcook your noodles because it'll get really soggy in the oven because you have to continue to cook it in the oven. So you want to cook it till it's just al dente. That means it's still a little stiff. 1 stick of unsalted melted butter. I have 6 eggs. The first thing I ever learned how to make by myself was my grandma's macaroni and cheese. I was at my sister's house, and you guys have probably heard the story before. We were all cooking, and like everyone has to make their own dish. So they assigned me macaroni and cheese. Little do they know I'd never cooked before, at least by myself without adult supervision. And I said, I'll make the macaroni and cheese. And I'm like, oh Lord, how do I make the macaroni and cheese? I called my grandma, I was like, Grandma, I'm making your macaroni and cheese. What do I need to put in it? Well, she's like, well, who's letting you cook in that kitchen? I said, Arlene. And she said, okay, well, if you have to make it, put a little egg and evaporated milk. The canned milk is what she called it, canned milk. And if they have some of that heavy cream around, if you want it a little richer, you use the heavy cream, and you season your noodles and stuff with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and you shred up your cheese. So I just remember what she said, and I remembered what I watched basically my entire childhood. And I just prayed to the gods above, please just guide me through this macaroni and cheese because I don't want them to talk about me. So I made the macaroni and cheese, and it was a hit. A hit. So I've been making it this way ever since. I do have my other versions, but this right here is my go-to. So I have 6 eggs in this bowl that I've combined with 2 cans of evaporated milk, a teaspoon of garlic powder, seasoned with a little salt and pepper. I like a lot of freshly cracked black pepper. Pour my egg and milk mixture into my casserole dish that I've sprayed with nonstick spray and my noodles. Give it a mix And remember, I have that melted butter in there as well. Okay. 2 cups of heavy cream. Have some cubed sharp cheddar here. Now, back when my grandmother used to make this, and I would be her little helper, she wouldn't let me cut the cheese, but she would let me like put the cheese from her cutting board into a bowl, and she'll turn around and she's like, well, did you put the cheese in the bowl? And by the time she turns around, the cheese was gone. I would eat this. That was my duty. Hand shredded extra sharp cheddar cheese, about 1.5 pounds. That extra sharp gives it a little extra tang. The trick to making creamy and cheesy Southern baked macaroni and cheese is to make sure that your noodles are swimming in milk and cheese. You don't want to see any exposed noodles. No naked noodles. Before I cover this, I'm going to sprinkle with more cheese on top to get a nice even layer of cheese. This looks incredible. I have my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna bake this off for about 40 minutes or until it gets nice and bubbly in the inside, and then I'm gonna take the foil off and let it cook for an additional 10 to 15 minutes or until the top is browned. And what I also like to do is spray my aluminum foil with a little nonstick spray so that cheese doesn't stick. That's a trick Grandma taught me. Oh my goodness. My grandmother is gonna be proud of me. Now that's how you bake a macaroni and cheese.
An homage to my mom, I'm making a shepherd's pie. All right? Okay, so Sunny's already starting. Again, very simple, humble ingredients. Potatoes, some milk, some sour cream, butter, and eggs. She is ricing potatoes. The secret to this is they must be warm. Cooking them completely in salted water from cold.
That's right.
And you must cook them. There's nothing worse than an undercooked potato.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Unless you're gonna fry them again, you gotta really do it this way. And this is a ricer. This is a fantastic machine. What this does is it lets the potato get to a state where you can mash it without getting gummy.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest problem. No, okay? So to that, she's gonna add warm milk, sour cream, warm butter. This is not clarified butter, just regular melted butter, a good amount of salt and pepper, and 2 egg yolks. And these are gonna be added at the end so they don't cook. And we're just gonna get them all in, whipped together.
All right.
Okay, and these are just 2 egg yolks.
Chef.
You got it?
Got it.
Okay, so right here I have some onions in a casserole with rosemary. You can add garlic if you want. I just like the onions. And I'm gonna get them almost to the point where they're like kind of crusty. Okay, and then I'm gonna add ground lamb. We eat a lot of lamb in my household growing up. Back then, it was really inexpensive.
It was.
So this is just ground lamb. You can use beef, you can use turkey, you can use whatever you want. Like I said, it's a casserole. What does that mean? It's a leftover.
That's right.
So go for it. And we have potatoes that will make anybody happy. I used to make this a lot of times in restaurants when I started to work in restaurants, and it was called hachis parmentier.
What?
Yeah. And this was staff meal, okay? And this was, staff meal means, you know, all the chefs are cooking very fancy French food, and what do they want to eat at lunchtime? Not fancy French. They want the opposite, right? Because you don't want what you're actually cooking all day. So this is very filling, and I just love it because it's just so satisfying. So we're gonna get that, a little salt and pepper, let it go, caramelize, and this is what it looks like after about 4 or 5 minutes. It's all nice and brown here, okay? And to that, we're gonna add a little bit of flour, just to thicken it a touch, some tomato paste, and a little bit of sherry wine vinegar.
Was this like something when you knew your mom was making shepherd's pie, you were excited to sit down at the table? Or was this like something, a shepherd's pie again?
No,
I can't wait to elevate
she
it
would
when
make
I'm
a lot of these. She would
chef.
make a lot of casseroles, and it's not necessarily shepherd's pie. It's like anything in a casserole, this methodology. So it could be potato with cabbage. She would make it with meatless. I didn't even know it was meatless.
A casserole is so comforting.
Oh, it's so comforting.
Isn't it? It does take you right back to your childhood. Anything mashed potato.
Okay, how you doing over there, son?
Really good. I aggressively salted it. Did you want pepper in this at all?
Yes.
Okay.
And to this, we're gonna add some pearl onions. It's kind of fancy. You don't have to add pearl onions. I love onions.
You can get the frozen kind.
You can get the frozen kind. Some carrots and peas. You can add whatever you have again.
So you cooked those pearl onions before you put them in?
Yes.
Got a little color on them?
Yes, you don't have to, but I just did. Some parsley. A good amount of parsley, really important.
You guys know the difference between shepherd's pie and cottage pie?
It's the meat.
What does shepherd's pie always have in it?
Lamb.
And what does cottage pie have in it?
Beef. Beef.
Yes, exactly.
So if you can take a look at this, you see we have, I mean, you know it's gonna be good, right? You have the little vinegar, the tomato, the flour's gone, basically. It's gonna do its job in about 2 seconds when I add some stock. You can add water, chicken stock, beef stock, vegetable stock, anything just like that. And then the magic. Sunny's gonna give us we're gonna put this right on top. I'm gonna bring this over here, Sunny, and we're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. You don't even have to get a
No, I
casserole
trust
dish
you.
out.
Here.
You trust me?
I trust you.
Oh my God.
My
Hold
sous
on.
chef. You gotta
Let
trust
me do
your
one
sous
more
chef.
taste. You do.
Otherwise,
but-
you're gonna be in the kitchen all day long yourself.
Yeah, it's perfectly.
Okay. Put the entirety of that on top. When I mean entirety, this will serve 10 people.
Great ratio.
Jeffrey, let me ask you,
Yes.
this is your childhood favorite. Is it becoming your children's childhood favorite?
Unfortunately, they don't get things so homey. They do get homey stuff, but I haven't actually made this for them yet. But now I'm going to.
Keep the tradition going.
This is just beautiful. Sunny's just, look at Sunny.
Well, I mean, it's meat and potatoes.
It is
GZ.
meat and potatoes.
I'm in my happy place, you
All
know
right,
what
you
I'm
ready to
saying?
get really happy?
Are you gonna do your thing?
I'm gonna do my thing.
Oh,
I think I see what's coming.
Melted butter.
Oh,
Oh,
that is just-
yeah.
I know.
I got you hills and valleys. Should I have leveled it off better?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Wow.
Hills and valleys and Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
Or any other cheese you have grated in the box. Doesn't really matter.
American?
Not American. Okay? Could you open the oven for me?
Yeah, I got you.
No, that'd be good, though.
375.
I'm starting to think about
Bottom
it.
oven,
On
please.
mashed potatoes?
375
How?
for at least 40 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, you can get all nice and brown and
take that one
crusty
home.
over there.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that. Can you see
Oh,
that?
stop it.
Oh,
wow.
stop.
Wow. Right here. We sat in the right place.
Oh, okay, you have hills and valleys in that too.
Yeah, we know it's just painted kind of. Isn't that beautiful?
It is gorgeous.
Look at that guy right there. That's
Yes.
like McKinley. That's K2.
Oh my gosh, look at that. That is gorgeous.
So that's what it should look like. A little parsley
Gorgeous.
for you.
Oh,
And carrots always
for
reminds
moi?
me of childhood.
Oh, man, I'm making this.
This is very simple.
Yes.
And the great thing is the potato is fortified with those eggs. So extra little, you know, something, something.
Woo, woo. Gigi, only you could make a humble shepherd's pie.
Oh,
Tastes like $1 million.
Oh, $1 million.
humble pie.
This is
Thank you.
delicious. And the lamb really does make all the difference
It's good. the lamb.
because it's so rich. And then you add those creamy mashed potatoes to it. You get a little sweetness from the peas and carrots. This is phenomenal. You all
Thank
better make
you.
this at home.